It's the greatest gift from Allah to be in the last prophet. Summa salatullah wa salamullah ala al-hadi ya Rasulillah. It's the greatest gift from Allah to be in the last prophet. Summa salatullah wa
قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا. That successful indeed is the one who purifies this nafs.
You have fear for Allah, but you also fear other people? No. وَلَا يَخْشَوْنَ أَحَدًا. Don't fear anybody else illallah, except Allah.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's telling us good words are better. Good words, words of advice, is better than the one who gives charity but followed by reproach.
So there are different levels of tests, and Allah decides who He's going to test. The first level of testing, of course, is with our own life.
esteemed by his companions that Allah had mentioned their noble description in the Holy Quran.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونعوذ به من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على دين كله ولو كره الكافرون. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الدين عند الله الإسلام. وقال عز وجل اليوم أكملت لكم دينكم وأتممت عليكم نعمتي ورضيت لكم الإسلام دينا. وبعد. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, we thank the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal for having given us life and for having chosen us as Muslims, and for having given us the courage and the willpower and the strength to continue being Muslims. And we ask Him to keep on guiding us and to save us from the many ways of shaitan, and to save us from shirk and kufr, and to save us from the punishment of the grave and that of the hellfire, and to reunite us all in Jannatul Firdaus. We adore Him, we love Him, we worship Him Azza wa Jal. And we ask Him to give us that steadfastness and patience to continue in His worship. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was sent by the Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal, and he came. And he was inspired by Allah Azza wa Jal, and he delivered the message. And if he had not delivered the message, he would have failed in his mission. So he delivered the message, and when he was finishing delivering the message, Allah Azza wa Jal took him back. And then the Muslim Ummah, there was some sort of consternation at that time when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam died. There were two major groups: the Muhajirun, who came from Mecca, and the Ansar, who were living in Medina. And they wanted to have a common understanding as to who the Caliph should be, and they were making the statement, the Ansar, Minna amirun wa minkum amir. That from us, let us have a leader from the Ansar, and let us have a leader from the Muhajirun. Then the Sahaba remembered a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he spoke about the leadership, the Khilafah, the Caliphate being among the Quraysh. So they had no other choice, because this is the word of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. An-nasu tabi'un or taba'un li Qurayshin. That the people will follow the Quraysh even in the time of kufr and in the time of Islam. Or kama qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So when in the times of Jahiliyyah, the Quraysh were the main tribes that were controlling the Kaaba and the affairs of Makkah. And then after the demise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this hadith was there, and many other hadith that show that leader of the Muslim Ummah has to be Qurashi. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anh was chosen, and then after him Umar, Uthman and Ali. And the thing about it is that the last three were murdered, Umar, Uthman and Ali, because of dissension and tafriqa, breaking up, and differences among the Ummah. And this is a very poignant for us to think about and understand. Eventually, as it might be, we are on the 31st of March. On the 3rd of March 1924, the 3rd of March 1924, the shaitan called Kemal Ataturk snipped the final threads of the Khilafah, the Caliphate. That was in Turkey. And with that, he brought in a lot of secularism to such an extent that the Turkish language at that time was written in the Arabic script. And he took that away and made them write it in the Roman, English script. And he commanded the people who were in the authorities and all that to shave their beards. And a whole lot of different things he banned. And during the month of Ramadan, you can see him drinking and whatnot. In the month of Ramadan, I do not know what he was drinking. But during the day when he should be fasting, he would be openly drinking whatever it is he was drinking in front of the people. Whether he was Muslim or not, Allah Azza wa Jalla will judge. So, the Islamic Ummah, we were buried on the 3rd of March 1924, and we are now trying to be resurrected in the whole world, and we are seeing what is happening in the world. And one of the things that the forces, maybe whoever they are, is that they have been trying to separate, according to the Christian concept, the church from the state. You see, Christianity does not have the answers of governance and a whole lot of other things as well. Christianity, no other religion really has any answer of governance and a whole lot of things that deals with life. Islam has it. Inna dina inda Allahi al-Islam. That the religion in the eyes of Allah Azza wa Jal is Islam. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. This day have I perfected for you your religion. Wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati, and have completed my favors upon you. Wa raditu lakum al-Islam adina, and have chosen for you Islam as the religion. So if Islam is complete and perfect, has been completed and perfected, then we have to take all facets of our existence from Islam. And we cannot operate, even though we are living in the West, we cannot solely operate in the rules of the West with respect to understanding our Islam. Because if we were to do that, we will be falling short of our duties towards Allah Azza wa Jal, whereby it is outlawed for a man to have more than one wife legal, and they're trying to do stuff with the age of when a person can get married, where they have allowed homosexuals to get married, and drinking and gambling to be part of the day. It's halal according to Western concept, and a whole lot of other things, where hedonism, where the love of the world, wine, woman and song, is it at the top of the list? Capitalism, where you just get rich and forget about everybody else. And we can go on and on and on and list all the different concepts that the people have, that we are living among, that are ancient and foreign to the laws of Islam. So, in one way, in trying to control Islam, is to separate Islam and put Islam in the mosque and take it away from the headquarters of governance. This is what has been happening. This is what has been the effort, and they have been trying to do it in many different ways. Women's rights, animals' rights, you name it. They've been coming down, they want democracy. We are claimed to be terrorists, but if you were to check the records, see which country has been at war every single year for the last 50 years. Which country has been at war for the last 50 years every single time, every single year? Which country has bombed most other countries than any other country? And which country has killed innocent civilians more than any other country? Go do your research, read about it, check it out, and you will see. So the idea is to spread democracy. Democracy. And with democracy comes all these things I've been telling you about. Right? Now, yes, as Muslims, we have been misbehaving. We've been doing all sorts of things that are wrong in spite of the laws of Islam. And we know it. And we can start at home about the domestic abuse, and I have been speaking about it countless of times. The domestic abuse, the way we treat our parents, the way the parents may be treating us, our children, our neighbors. We don't care for our neighbors. Somebody might be asthmatic next door and we want to burn rubbish, so we burn rubbish. They tell us about it, we curse them. We are Muslims and this is how we behave. Some of us, not all the time, sometimes and whatever, breaking traffic lights, driving on the side, all sorts of things we do. And you have to pull back ourselves and behave ourselves in the discipline of al-amru bil ma'ruf wa nahyu anil munkar, enjoining what is right and forbidding what is wrong. So if we follow them, it will be just like following the lizard hole. Whereby, and this is one of the main things, if you break up, if the Muslim Ummah breaks up and put Islam in the mosque and isolates Islam from governance, we have gone away from the book of Allah Azza wa Jal and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Taraktu fikum amrayni lan tadillu ma tamassaktum bihi ma kitab Allahi wa sunnati. I have left for you two things, you will never go astray as long as you hold on to them, the book of Allah and my sunnah. If you were to look at the Muslim countries, we will realize that they have fallen very short with respect to Islamic procedure, and we know that. But we are responsible for ourselves and they are responsible for themselves. And we cry out to Allah Azza wa Jal with sincere dua, and I hope that every single one of us here is making that dua, that Allah Azza wa Jal, please return the Khilafah to us. Please, oh Allah, please return the Khilafah to us. We need leadership. In our society here in Trinidad, it is an old custom, I do not know how long ago, whereby in a mosque, you'll have that sort of separation occurring as well. Subconsciously maybe, without realizing what we are doing. And maybe it is because we are afraid. Maybe it is because we are afraid. What are we afraid of? We are afraid to have our lives dictated by the Quran and Sunnah. So, I want to share with you some hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. عن عبد الرحمن بن سمرة قال لي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يا عبد الرحمن لا تسأل الإمارة. Oh, this is a hadith reported by Abdul Rahman ibn Samura. He said, the Messenger of Allah Azza wa Jal said to me, O Abdul Rahman, do not ask for leadership. لا تسأل الإمارة فإنك إن أعطيتها عن مسألة وكلت إليها Because if you were given it, asking for it, it will be placed totally upon you, and Allah Azza wa Jal is not going to help you. This is the explanation of it. It will be placed totally on you, and Allah Azza wa Jal is not going to help you. There's another hadith that speaks about one or two of the Sahaba came to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam and asked him to make them the wazir or the minister over a particular place. And he said that this matter we will not give it to anybody who asks for it. And this is why the sort of elections we have in Trinidad and Tobago, it's not Islamic from that perspective. Because these people are begging to be elected leaders, in complete contrast to what we have been told in the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the hadith continues, وَإِنْ أُعْطِيتَهَا عَنْ غَيْرِ مَسْأَلَةٍ وَعِنْتَ عَلَيْهَا. But if you were to be given it without asking for it, you will be helped with it. You will be helped with it. Meaning that Allah Azza wa Jal is going to help you. In another hadith, عن أبي ذر قال قلت يا رسول الله ألا تستعملني. In the hadith of Abu Dhar, he said, O Messenger of Allah, aren't you going to use me over some area or so, over something? قال فضرب يده على منكبي ثم قال. He hit me on my shoulders with his hand. Not any blow of pain or anything like that. Then he said, Ya Abu Dhar, O Abu Dhar, innaka da'ifun, you are weak. Not weakness of body, but weakness in the ability to be a leader. Innaka da'if, you are weak. Wa innaha amana, and that leadership, it is an amana, it is a trust. It is a trust. And anybody accepting leadership position, they must think about it very carefully. Because it is a trust. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He's going to ask us for all the trusts that have been placed upon us, whether we fulfill that role or we did not. وَإِنَّهَا يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ خِزْيٌ وَنَدَامًا. And on the day of judgment, it is a humiliation and a regret. It is a humiliation and a regret. Humiliation for those people who did not fulfill the roles that they were asked to fulfill, and they accepted it. That leadership will humiliate them on the day of judgment. And it will be a regret for them that they have accepted it and did not fulfill the roles that they are supposed to fulfill. And there are a couple scenarios we can look at here. That one, a person may not be suitable to be an Amir, or he is suitable but did not fulfill his duties. And then he continues, إِلَّا مَنْ أَخَذَ بِحَقِّهَا وَأَدَّى الَّذِي عَلَيْهِ فِيهَا. Except he who has taken it, that leadership, with its rights, and fulfill that is which upon him. He fulfills all the roles and all the duties he has to fulfill as the leader. Except those people. In another hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he tells us, "Innal muqassitina 'inda Allahi ala manabir min nur an yamin ar-Rahman." That the muqassitun, the people who were just, with Allah Azza wa Jal, they are on mimbars, on steps. Mimbar, do you know what a mimbar is? Of light. On the right side of Allah Azza wa Jal, وَكِلْتَ يَدَيْهِ يَمِينَ, and both his hands are right. So they're going to be very close to Allah Azza wa Jal. الَّذِينَ يَعْدِلُونَ, those people who were just. Those people who were just, فِي حُكْمِهِمْ, when they are ruling, when they are given their rule on a particular matter, they are just, wa ahlihim, and amongst their family, referring to all of us who are husbands and fathers. Don't look at the Amir alone. Kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulan an ra'iyati. All of you are leaders, and all of you will be asked concerning your responsibilities. Wama walau, and all those areas that they were that they took upon themselves to be leaders in, their responsibilities. And then Allah Azza wa Jalla tells us in the Quran, Atiyu Allah wa atiyu Rasul wa ulil amri minkum. Obey Allah and obey the Messenger and those who are in authority over you. And this is where we are frightened. And in another hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he tells us, whosoever obeys me has obeyed Allah. Man ata'ani faqad ata' Allah. Wa man ya'sini faqad asa Allah. And whosoever disobeys me has disobeyed Allah. That's Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then he continues, وَمَنْ أَطَاعَ الْأَمِيرِ فَقَدْ أَطَاعَنِي. Whosoever obeys the Amir, he has obeyed me. وَمَنْ يَعْصِ الْأَمِيرِ فَقَدْ أَصَانِي. أو كما قال Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And whosoever disobeys the Amir, he has disobeyed me. This is why we are told, we must be very careful of those whom we are choosing as our leaders. There are people who have chosen as their leaders Johal, as the hadith tells us about the taking away of knowledge. They have chosen Johal, ignorant people who do not know anything about Islam, and they are the leaders. But we have chosen them, and you cannot dismiss a leader just like that. Because we are told in a hadith, and you can check it in Sahih Muslim, that when you have chosen someone as your leader, as long as he's praying and giving zakat and whatnot, you can't rise up against him. Go check it. It's in Sahih Muslim. So leadership is a very important aspect in the whole ummah. In the whole ummah. This is why those things that happened to Umar and Uthman and Ali are very serious matters. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam warned them about it. That when he dies, they're going to see a lot of ikhtilaf, a lot of differences. وَمَنْ يَعِشْ مِنْكُمْ بَعْدِي فَسَيَرَى اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا وَكَمَا قَالَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. Whosoever of you is alive after me, he will see a lot of differences. وَاتَّقُوا فِتْنَةً لَا تُصِيبَنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْكُمْ خَاصَّةً. And beware of the fitna, the tests and the trials and the tribulations that will not afflict those people who disbelieve specifically. So it means it's going to afflict the Muslims as well. And the companions used to say they never thought they would live to see the fitna that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was speaking about, but it was there. He says in a hadith, إِنَّهَا سَتَكُونُ بَعْدِ أَثَرَةٌ وَأُمُورٌ تُنْكِرُونَ. There will be after me atharatun, leaders who will be very biased. Leaders who will be very biased. وَأُمُورٌ تُنْكِرُونَ. And you will see matters that are happening that you will dislike and hate and deplore, coming from these leaders. قالوا يا رسول الله كيف تأمر من أدرك منا ذلك. They said, O Messenger of Allah, what do you command those people from amongst us who would see that and live at that time? Listen carefully to the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. the one we pattern ourselves behind, the one from whom we have gotten guidance through Allah Azza wa Jal. He says, to adun al-haqq alladhi alaykum, the rights that are on you to deliver, you fulfill it. Let's talk about a scenario for husband and wife. The husband is beating his wife and he's not giving her any money and he's doing all sorts of things. What can she do? She can try to get out of the marriage, that's her right. But if she so, as long as she stays, however, as a wife of this man, she has to fulfill her rights. So if he calls her to bed, she has to go. If he commands her with what is halal, she has to do it. She has to fulfill her rights. She has to fulfill his rights on her, even though he is not giving her her rights. And she has reason to get out of the marriage. Get out, mashallah. But as long as you're the wife of this man, you have to fulfill your duties. And as long as we are husbands to our wives, we have to fulfill our duties, even if the wives are not doing theirs. Because we are going to be asked concerning what we were given to do, and they will be asked concerning what they were given to do. So he tells him, to adun al-haqq alladhi alaykum, you must fulfill the rights that are on you. Wa tas'aluna Allah alladhi lakum, and you ask Allah Azza wa Jal for the rights that belongs to you, that the Amir must give you. It is a serious matter. You see, if in Trinidad we have chosen one person, and I'm wishing for that day to happen, one person who is knowledgeable. You can't take a jahil as your leader. Take someone who is knowledgeable. One person we have chosen as our leader. And this is why we are frightened. For instance, and when election time comes, he makes shura concerning the election, whether this party or that party, whatever. And he has decided, because he could say, I'm going to take the words of the shura, or I will consider the words of the shura, and then I will make my decision. This is the power of the Amir. And he makes his decision, whether he goes with the shura or he makes his independent decision, he has that power to do it. But if before he says, I will go with the decision of the shura, then that is binding on him. But whatever it is, the decision has been made, whether this way or that way. And I vote against what the Amir said, I am disobeying Allah Azza wa Jal. And this is why we are afraid. Because our own personal choice may not be the choice of the Amir. And some of us can't handle that. We do not have the discipline enough to be under that sort of system. You know, to have some people, they cannot work for anybody. Nothing is wrong with that. MashaAllah, start up your own business, do your own work. But some people cannot work for anybody because they don't like to be told what to do. That's okay. But our discipline as Muslims has to go and soar above that personal choice. So even though we do not like a decision, once it's not something haram, and our one leader in our community, in our Trinidad and Tobago, decides to vote for X or Y or Z or whatever it is, we have no choice but to go and vote for X, Y or Z. You all ready for that? We ready for that? La ilaha illallah. Seek in your heart. Push your head into your heart. Take your mind and put it in your heart. Let us do that and see if we are ready for that or not. Every single one of us here, man, woman, and the children who can think, see if our hearts are ready for that. And then we can understand the wisdom of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam telling Abu Dhar, innaka da'if, you are weak. Then we can understand that wisdom. But are we really ready for that? Right? When the Amir could tell the husband, I am going to announce a separation because you are mistreating your wife and she wants out. We can't handle that. It has some brothers, when I've been asking concerning certain cases, well, who is a person that this husband of yours look up to, listen to? And she would say many times, he doesn't listen to anybody. Doesn't matter if it's Mufti, Molvi, Sheikh, Pir, Maulana, it doesn't matter. Doesn't listen to anybody. He makes his own laws. And I've had that many times. So, are we really ready for leadership? And in another hadith he tells us, Innakum satalqawna ba'di atharatan. You will meet this athara, these people who are going to be leaders, and they are going to be very biased. And he tells us, Fasbiru. Be patient. Fasbiru. Hatta talqawni ala al-hawd. Until you meet me at the fountain. I don't know if my hairs are raising and my paws are raising in my hand right now. I don't know about you all. This is the extent of Islam. And this is the extent of the Ummah. You see, we have to have one voice. We have to be one Ummah. Yes, we'll have difference of opinion. We have Maliki, Shafi, Hanbali, whatever it is, MashaAllah, Salafi, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. We all belong to Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah. We have to have one voice. And if we do not have that voice, which is compulsory upon us, it is compulsory upon us, then all these little things that we're quarreling about, doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense, my dear brothers and sisters in Islam. So I ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He makes us Ummah Wahida, and we'll see beyond these petty differences amongst us. Be careful of people anywhere in the world trying to separate our Islam from our governance. There have been some masajid in Trinidad, as I was speaking about that before, where they would have an imam and they have a president. And there was a mosque that came to me with that same problem. And the two fractions said they didn't have no problem with whoever this person has been an imam, particular person. So when we settled that, they were saying now, well, the president is the next issue. So I asked them, I say, well, the imam is the president. How can you separate the running of a community and have an imam to come and lead salah and whatnot, and have a president who has the real power in dealing with everything that made the president the imam? If that is the case, the person as the one as president, make him the imam so that he will deal with all these issues. We are following them into the lizard hole. Can't you all realize that? Can't we realize that? We are following them. We have been controlled by our minds that this is the way we have to go. When Islam is screaming out to us, it's different. La ilaha illallah, it's different. But are we afraid to face the reality? And there are many other things. The reality of it, certain things we can't say. But the reality of it, you'll be frightened down to your shoes. Dig into Islam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Isma'u wa ati'u, hear and obey. If your Amir, your Caliph is asking you something that is wrong and haram, you don't do it. La ta'ata li makhluqin fi ma'asiyati al-khaliq. There is no obeying someone, creation, there is no obeying of creation in the disobedience of the Creator, even if it costs you your life. He says, Isma'u wa ati'u, hear and obey. فَإِنَّمَا عَلَيْهِمْ مَا حُمِّلُوا, on them is what they have been given as responsibility. وَعَلَيْكُمْ مَا حُمِّلْتُمْ, and on you is what you have been given your responsibilities. Your responsibilities that have been given on you are on you. You have to answer for that. You don't have to answer for them. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us of those people who will hear the Quran, believe in it, and follow it, recite it, memorize it, and teach it, live it. And so too with the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. May He unite us as we ought to be united. People are afraid of the Muslims being united. Look at the big melee in the Middle East. Think about it. Nobody wants us to be united. And they'll do all sorts of things. Remember the Aus and Khazraj, what was happening with them and Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. May He unite us in this world and reunite us in the hereafter. And may He make us love each other for His sake and see beyond our differences so that we can be ibadullah haqqan, we can be the worshippers of Allah in reality. Ameen. Aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum wa lisa'iril muslimina min kulli dhanb fastaghfiruhu innahu huwal ghafurur rahim.
It's the greatest gift from Allah to be in the last prophet. Summa salatullah wa salamullah ala al-hadi ya Rasulillah. It's the greatest gift from Allah to be in the last prophet. Summa salatullah wa salamullah ala al-hadi ya Rasulillah.